Hello, welcome to Momming and Thriving. Today we're going to discuss an expert mom's mental health, and we have the delightful Hannah here joining us today. Anna is an amazing friend, and she's also my neighbor. And more especially, and more importantly, she's someone we share food together in terms of calories. Because I feel guilty anytime I'm baking, and so I bake, and I always send her a piece or send her a slice, and it's just something we do together. She's also a mom of three boys, and it's been a pleasure knowing her. Another important thing is Anna and I both had babies in the pandemic, a time when it was really challenging for everyone in the world. So we're going to explore that in detail and talk about how we navigated that experience and how we were able to overcome the challenges that came with it. Anyway, welcome Anna. Welcome to Momming and Thriving. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name's Anna. I'm originally from the US. I have three boys. I've been married for almost 15 years. We have been in China for almost 8. We moved to the UAE back in March, so not a year yet. And so we've experienced lots of different culture and cross-cultural experiences, and we've raised babies in it, and it's been a wild adventure. My house is crazy. This is why we're in a closet of an office to try and get some privacy and silence.
We normally start the Momming and Thriving podcast with the gist of the week, where we talk about a story that made us laugh, or something that was really scary, or something that made us scream, something that we learned from. But basically a story that's happened recently in your household. So Anna, would you tell us?
I got stories all the time. 3 boys. I have a story all the time. My boys are nuts. They're crazy boys. They keep me laughing all the time. So this was not this week, and I won't say which child it was, but you can probably guess from the story. This was in China. We had parent-teacher conferences, and it was during the pandemic, so the teachers had to come to the house. It was still everybody's doing online learning, but the teachers could come to the house. So one of my kids had rule in our house. They are not allowed to shut the door for safety issues. And so I was in one room, and all of a sudden I hear the door click shut, and it takes 2 seconds. I turn around, the door is locked, and Batman had locked himself in the room. Teachers are on their way. First one student, then the next student. So there's 4 teachers coming within a couple of hours. So one set of teachers show up, and Batman has locked himself in the room, and I'm trying to be very calm. One of the teachers is a teacher's assistant. She's Chinese, and she's very maternal. And so she calls the groundskeeping, like maintenance type people for the whole complex area. And then she also calls the emergency contact number, which is like the police or the fire department. So my husband's there, or my husband's boss is there. He cannot get the door open. They call the maintenance people for my whole company. And he's on his way, which is like 30 minutes. And by this point, it's about 30 minutes that my son has been dressed as Batman, locked in this door, and he's just screaming. And I'm trying to get him to come to the door. It's okay, come to the door, unlock it. And he's just surrendered his life to this room now. He's now living in this is his new environment, his new life. And so finally, the maintenance guy shows up about an hour later after he's been locked in the room the entire time screaming. And he comes, he tries to unlock it for a few seconds, but he can't get it. And then he just kicks the door down, boom, boom, boom. And then it opens up. The teachers are there. My youngest, he's on the bed screaming. I come grab him. The teachers are there. Everyone gets him out. And then within a few minutes later, I have 3 or 4 fire department guys walking into the house. I mean, it is just nuts. It is crazy at my house. So anyway, this is what it's like living with my boys. Like it's always something going on. It's always crazy at my house. So
the thing is, I think the teachers would definitely, it's a lasting memory. So they won't forget you easily. Or they would always have that reference. Remember that house we went to where the boy looked
It's just a teacher, yeah. It's just a student teacher or parent teacher conference. That's all it was. But yeah, we gave him something to remember forever.
Definitely. Wow, your gist of the week, I can't even top that. That is crazy. How did you feel afterwards? Like, and how long did it take him to settle down? Because I'm imagining he was crying and probably lots of bugs.
He was very upset. He was very upset, and it was just so. I mean, there's so many adults rushing around trying to figure it out, and he calmed down after a while. It did take a little while, and I think he did have a little bit of PTSD. Anytime we would put him in his room for like bedtime, he did not want to shut the door. He did not want to. He made sure we did not close the door at all. So he was a little bit traumatized from the event, but yeah, it was nuts. My boys they just always have given me something to write about.
That's the thing about kids, though. It's definitely not a dull moment. So my gist of the week was Isaiah mentioned that. So this is how it went. We were on the way to school, and Joseph was like, "Mommy, Isaiah did something yesterday that you're not gonna like." I was like, "Okay, tell me, what did he do?" And Isaiah was like, "Okay, Mom, I'm gonna tell you myself." And then he said, "A boy asked me for a pencil in school, and I told him it's 2 dirhams for the pencil." So, so he said, "Okay," and then the boy paid him 2 dirhams, and then he gave him the pencil. And I was like, a part of me was so proud, and I'll tell you why. Because Isaiah is very entrepreneurial. Like the way he has a shop, he wants to sell things. At the same time, I was like, oh, okay. So I have to put my mom hat on and say, okay, Isaiah, you don't need to charge your classmates a pencil. You can just give it to him and remember to collect it back. And meanwhile, Joseph would lose his pencil case. Isaiah always has everything inside his pencil case. And so if someone wants it, he wants to charge because he wants to make money. It just shows how different kids are. At the moment, Joseph doesn't even have a pencil case. He's lost everything in his pencil case. So that was just a funny moment. And I thought, this boy is charging people for pencils. So I told him, okay, don't do that next time. But deep down, I was a little bit proud.
He's a future businessman.
Yeah. Seems like it.
That's funny.
Yeah. So let's go to the first question. And I would say let's kind of go a few years back to when you had your baby during the pandemic. What was that experience like? So not necessarily the birth, because we know that we both have 3 kids, but in terms of the support, and how were you able to cope with that experience, having a baby in the pandemic?
Yeah, so he was born, my youngest was born July 2019. So it was actually, just before pandemic hit. And then we actually were able to go to the US December, or I guess, for the holidays, November, December, right before the pandemic hit. So that was really great that we got to see family. Family got to be introduced to Kylan, the youngest. And yeah, we just got to see everyone because we had no idea what we were heading into for 2020, right? So then we get back to China, and that's when everything just hit the fan. The whole world kind of started to fall apart, and that's when it really was totally different. But yeah, as far as like the birthing experience, that was relatively normal, and I think even after the birth, as far as like depression, that was pretty easy. It was a pretty easy pregnancy and labor and after birth, and it was really great to see family. But afterwards, getting back here, we had a couple of family members die during the pandemic, and just being so absent and I've heard, especially with expats, like when they're so old and then when they're so young, just a little bit of time it's so important. It goes so fast. And so being in China, not being able to leave, I think that was the hardest part, that time was so crucial because there was so much change that happened. And then also, watching older people die from the pandemic and then just health related issues. It was hard.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people struggled with, even though they didn't experience maybe postpartum depression or anything, is just being restricted, not being able to leave your house. When you've got kids and you want to go out and you can't go out, you can't do the things you normally as a way to kind of spend quality time together outside of the house. I think people found that hard. Personally, I remember finding that particularly hard And also Joseph, one of my sons, is an extrovert. He wants to go out, wants to meet people.
Yeah.
So just being locked inside the house after a while started to take a toll on the family. My situation is slightly different from yours because I did have a baby in the midst of the pandemic. And my baby came 8 weeks early. And I found that normally my mom would have come or, have family around, but we didn't have anyone. And so I think that was particularly challenging for me personally. But I think it wasn't, I would say that it didn't lead to depression because I had support, closely support. All was very hands-on, and I had a couple of friends here that were hands-on. Yeah, but it was a tough time, especially restricted. I think the restriction made it particularly hard. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think especially, I really believe that if you know there's an end date, you can almost do anything. I think that's why people get pregnant again or women get pregnant again is because there's an end to it. Whether it's the pregnancy in general or labor or pain there's an end to it. But I think that was so hard about with COVID is there was just really no end in sight for a long time. We had no idea when the next time we were going to see family. We kept hearing kind of this mystical 2 weeks, it's going to be another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks. And then it kept rolling into months and then years. And again, when the kids are so small, there's just so much development and so much change that happens in such a short period of time that it was hard. It was a lot of mourning of a loss that could have been, should have been, but wasn't there.
Did you guys have to do online learning and work and schooling from home? Did you have to do that?
That's right. Yeah. So China has been very strict during COVID. They are still doing online learning. So for a lot of,
Anna, did you see online learning till now?
That's right. It's a very different approach to COVID than a lot of other countries have taken. So yeah, we did a lot of Bennett's, like the ECC time for the kindergarten, the preschool time was through online learning. So I had a lot of respect for the teachers trying to do online learning.
Everyone says that. Everyone said that. After the pandemic, everyone's like, teachers need a raise.
Seriously.
And extra should be added to their salary. What?
Oh my goodness.
A lot of moms express that because it is challenging, and that's just handling your kids.
That's right.
Most people are managing like 15 to 30 kids in the classroom.
Yes. I think that is one good thing that came out of the pandemic. The parents' respect for teachers definitely went up because they got to see kind of behind the curtain. They had to do some of the teachers' work. They had to kind of be hands-on, where before you could kind of send your kids to school and not really think about it. But doing the home learning, doing it online, you'd had to do much more hands-on. So I think parents' respect for teachers, it definitely went up. And yeah, it's a lot of respect for, especially those little kids. I mean, it is so hard to get their attention to focus for just a little bit.
Just focus for 5 minutes.
Yeah, so hard.
Have you heard of the term baby blues before? So there's the postpartum depression a lot of moms experience, but it says that most people kind of experience baby blues, and this is normally within the first month or first 6 weeks of having a baby. Whereas like, you have the hormones is at a high and then it just slumps and it's like, oh, okay. So most people kind of experience that, but on average, they say 1 in 5 moms experience depression. So I just wanted to touch a little bit more on that topic, because even if you've not experienced it personally, because you mentioned you didn't have it, I had it with my second, with Joseph, and that was when I moved to UAE 5 years ago. So I was living in London, and obviously I had my aunts, I had my cousins, family, and everyone. But then Joseph was about 8 months, and then we moved here, and all of a sudden you don't have that support system anymore. And I remember, I think how I realized that we're getting to the point of depression was I wanted to normally stay in the dark. I wouldn't switch on the lights in the house. Like I would leave the lights shut and just stay in. And so even though I know what a walk or fresh air would do me good, I just rather stay inside. I think that was when I realized that, okay, mentally, maybe you're not okay. I have a way to overcome that. So that was my experience. But ironically, with Aliyah, the last one, even though it was a pandemic, I didn't have that experience. So it happens to, I don't know if there is something that makes it happen, because it can happen for one child and not happen for the other child.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely had it in my second when I had Joseph. And the way I was able to overcome that was running. I started going forward every single day. It was just 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but it was like a mental, it helped me mentally. It was almost like a release from all the tension.
Yeah.
So that was how I was able to navigate that. Do you know of anyone that experienced postpartum depression?
Yeah, so my first one, I don't really think I had depression, but my second one was also very hard. Now I think we understand it a little bit more, as we're pretty sure he has ADHD. And now we can kind of look back and say, oh, I think that's why. Even from day one, there was a lot of, I don't want to say hard, but it was hard. It was really hard. He cried for his entire first year of life, and he was a really hard baby. And then we kept thinking that as soon as he reaches this developmental mark, he would kind of grow out of some of these tough things that we were experiencing. And he never really grew out of it. It just morphed into where now we're at the point where he's almost 5. And I think we're finally setting into a diagnosis with ADHD. And so looking back to day one, I think we can understand his brain just functions differently. But it played a lot on me, and it probably played on each other. I was super stressed, and I was probably stressing him out as a baby, and it was just a really, really hard time. And then not having the support of, this is just my personality. It's so much easier to bum my kids off on my family, but to do it with my neighbors or strangers, it's so much harder for me to ask for that when I probably should have done that more. But yeah, being away from family when I could have just saying, hey, I need that break, I need to tap out. I didn't have them right there. And so it was a very long, exhausting year. Yeah, lots of low moments.
Yeah, those low moments are actually some of the things that a lot of moms struggle with. And, one of the things I mentioned last week in my podcast was how we need a new village. So what hasn't changed. Like they say, a child of village raises a child, right? But now that's not really possible, because you have people living in different countries. You have people, everyone's busy. Grandmothers are working. The retirement age is increased. So it's not like the way our parents or grandparents had that support, where automatically their moms came round, or you could just kind of live with your mom for a while, and then you can have respite or a break. So we find ourselves in this situation where we're, as modern moms, the standard for parenting seems to have increased, because now there's self-awareness, we're aware of childhood traumas, we want to do things to prevent our children from experiencing what we experience. However, the support is less. So the standard has increased, but the support is less.
Yes.
So this is where it's a lot of moms are struggling with that tension and that pressure. How do we navigate that? And I was saying sometimes you just need to lock yourself in the toilet.
Yeah, I think I did. I totally went to a place where I think when I had my first one, I was just so full of love, and it was just, I think I was just totally fine. I could never understand how someone could hurt their baby, hurt their child. But when I had my second one, I could empathize with someone where they could get so low and be so triggered, where they get out of their rational thinking and they could hurt their child in a blink of a moment. And then they're not in their right mind, and they look back and it's something they totally regret. And I could totally empathize with someone. I get it. I get how someone could get to that point. And I think that's where I was. I was like, there was times where I had to set him down and just walk away, because I was so broken. I was at a breaking point, and for all of our safety, it was a hard year. And yeah, I think just the lack of support, partially because I don't know if I knew what was happening. I don't know if I could have reached out more. I did have a couple of friends, and I think this is a huge part of what saved me and my child, was that there was a couple of friends that just had no judgment. There's zero judgment. I think that's super important for all moms too. I wish moms did not try to find affirmation in other moms, whether it's social media or they didn't have to prove themselves. Yeah. And just to find a mom that you can just say, I want to hurt my kid. I'm to the point where I'm so broken. I feel like a failure. I love my kid, but I don't like them today. It's not working for me today. And just find a mom that can just be empathetic and just listen and just sit in the messiness of it all. And so I was really fortunate to have a couple of moms that just listened to me and just let me cry, very unjudgmental, and just let me vent. So I think that's something super important. If you can just find one or two, whether it's another friend, mom, or your own mom, or a girlfriend, whatever, or a therapist, or somebody that can just listen, unjudgmental, that you don't have to get affirmation or prove yourself. I think that's huge.
The important word is non-judgmental. I think it's extremely important when you feel safe around someone to express not the perfect picture, express the real mess, as you said, because it does get messy sometimes. Motherhood is not what we see on social media. It's not those perfect pages on social media. I think that's also an extra pressure because you're constantly or subconsciously seeing images that make you feel like maybe I'm not doing so much. Maybe these people have it better than me, or maybe they are able to do this motherhood thing more than me. But really, it's not true because everyone has those moments where they literally need to vent, as you said, and you don't want to vent around your child. But you need an outlet because if you don't let it out, it's just there's like tension constantly in your brain. So it's having that person or having one or two people that you can actually express your authentic self to. I think it's so important. Non-judgmental. That's the key word.
Yes.
People are very quick to make judgments. It's not helpful at all. It's not helpful at all.
And they don't know. They don't know. I mean, every situation is so different. And like you said before, each kid, from one kid to the next kid, if I would have given myself advice from how I parented my first child, it probably would have been really terrible advice to how I parented my second child. Each child is so different. How you parent from one child to the next is such a different situation. And so just when someone opens up vulnerably, just to sit there and listen to them it's just so beautiful. But yeah, I think that's a really hard find sometimes to find. So I think that's my saving grace is to have a friend, just really one or two friends that just listened to me when I needed to cry.
So that actually leads us to our tip because we'll round up soon. But what tips would you give people? So you've mentioned finding someone, a non-judgmental mom, or it could be a family member, a friend, be a neighbor, someone you feel comfortable with, that you know is not judgmental. What other advice would you give someone when they're feeling particularly low?
For me, I'm not a health professional, but I know putting on some makeup, getting dressed, that does a lot for a woman, just getting dressed. And I know, but probably when you're in a lower state of mind, it's harder to do. So I know it goes to a cognitive effort of I'm going to choose to do it, but choosing to get dressed, to put on some makeup, to get out of the house for just a short time, to exercise, just to move your body, whether it's a little bit of exercise or to have that release of stress, whether it's full-blown cardio or just a little bit. I also think love is a super powerful tool. For me, I find a lot of my identity in knowing that I am unconditionally loved by my creator. And so that I think having a faith is it's very grounding. But beyond your personal faith, I think finding a community that just unconditionally loves you, whether again that's your family, whether it's overseas, or just a friend that can love you unconditionally without judgment, that's huge. And so I think again that's being vulnerable, putting yourself out there to someone that says I need support, I need love. But yeah, I think that's vital to any success after having a baby.
Thank you so much, Anna. I'm just going to add a bit more to what you just said. So I totally agree with you. Speak to someone. Definitely find someone you can share your authentic, your real self, where you could express the lows, not only the highs and the positive. don't suffer in silence and seek medical help. I can't remember where I read this, but it says how so many people are going through the same things. If only they knew, like the therapist or the mental health professional, if only you could see the amount of people that are going through the same thing you've been through. And that's what they're trained to do. So if it requires speaking to a therapist, I think people should speak to a therapist. There shouldn't be any shame or stigma around it. If you need to see a mental health expert, 100%, a mom should be able to have access to these things. And also it's self-care, like you said, sometimes you just need to wear makeup, just do something for yourself, go for a spa date, just something to kind of lighten your mood. Self-care is a big thing as well, and recharging, re-energizing. So some people find that with exercise. Some people just want to call in a friend. If you have a friend that makes you laugh, really, that will lighten your mood. So it's just finding the thing that you know works for you. Because as moms, sometimes you just kind of carry on, and then you're kind of going on empty. You're not recharging yourself. So that's just all I'll add to it. And but overall, thank you so much, Anna. This was such a good conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, you're welcome. So we like to end the podcast with 3 questions. Okay. So being a mom has, so if you complete this question,
being a mom has been extremely transformative. I'm a completely different person than what I was before being a mom. I think there's 2 things that make you a better person, being a mom and Jesus. So get yourself a lot of kids, get yourself a lot of Jesus. So kids, they make you a better person. I'm completely transformed after being a mom.
Okay, a bunch of kids, not a lot of kids, a bunch of kids.
That's right. It doesn't have to be your own necessarily. I'm all for not getting married, not having your own kids. Just surround yourself with kids. Any kid. Kids make you a better person.
100%. They definitely make you more patient.
That's right.
For sure. Okay, I feel the happiest when...
Right after I put my kids to bed.
I love it. The authenticity is amazing. I love it. If you could tell 5-year-old Anna something, what would it be?
Let's see. Probably do not grow up too fast.
Oh.
Yeah. Take it slow.
I feel that.
Yes.
Slow down. Slow down.
Enjoy it. Enjoy your childhood. It's gone super quick. I see it with my kids. They grow up so fast.
I tell them the same thing as well. Isaiah the other day was telling me that he can't wait till he has his own car. He can't wait till I get married. I'm like, you're 8 years old. Slow down.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anna, for joining
us
today.
Toyin.
Really appreciate you coming to Mommy and Thriving.